All right, queens of the Nile, the legendary women who ruled ancient Egypt and Nubia. Yeah, we're about to get into it. You listen to King Cam and Ujumbe podcast and Ujumbe means message. Yes, this is live and in color. This is not a premiere. This is not a joke. This is Thursday. What's going on? Don't forget to greet everybody as you're coming in. We are live and in effect, and I'm really thankful that you guys are here one more time. And I'm done kicking the can around, and we're about to get into it. My top 5 queens of the Nile Valley. I said Nile Valley on purpose. All right. So we're going to talk about the queens who became pharaohs according to the book. What book? We're talking about this book here. The first female pharaoh, so Nefertari, the goddess of the 7 stars. My top 5 of the Nile Valley. And we're going to answer a few questions. We got a bonus. I forgot about the bonus. And we're going to answer a few questions, and like why Cleopatra ain't on my list. And I said what I said, and I am checking roll. Okay, so make sure you stay to the end, or you will not get credit. All right. So get this: ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet was one of the most advanced and enduring civilizations of the ancient world, with a structured monarchy that placed great significance on divine rulership. While the pharaoh was the supreme ruler, queens played a crucial role in ensuring the stability and continuity of the throne. Far from being just the king's wife, you know what I'm saying? Egyptian or Kemetic queens held political, religious, and ceremonial authority, with some even ascending to the throne of sole rulership themselves. All right. So as you're coming in, greet everybody as you're coming in. I'm really grateful. I'm really thankful. So we are here one more time on a Thursday. We're going to get to the business. All right. So, like I said before, we're going to talk about the queens who became kings or rulers according to the book. My top 5 queens of the Nile Valley, plus a bonus, and I'm answering a few questions. And once again, I'm checking roll. I said what I said. Now, the queenship of Egypt is primarily determined by lineage, marriage, and religious endorsement, with many queens originating from the royal bloodline. The priesthood played a fundamental role in legitimizing the queen's authority through sacred rituals and divine proclamations, reinforcing their role as intermediaries between the Neteru, the ancestors, and the people. Ceremonial rites include like coronation processes, the initiation rituals, and we discussed this before. So check those videos out when we get done. So some queens went beyond that. They went beyond their traditional roles and assumed full power as Insubiti or king or monarch or pharaoh of Kemet, challenging gender norms and leaving a lasting legacy in Egyptian history. Symbols of divine queenship, such as the vulture crown and the goddess Nekbet and the cobra Wajet, further emphasize the divine connection and protective role over the kingdom. So this discussion, we're gonna talk about the various queens that I think that's in my top 5. And that's my humble opinion. And let's go, let's get it. So while most queens of ancient Kemet or ancient Egypt willed influence consorts, regents, or priestesses, a select few ascended to the throne and ruled in their own right. These exceptional queens defied gender norms, making the full power to Pharaoh. And the most notable among them, of course, is Nefertari. That's the monarch we're studying, and Hatshepsut, who demonstrated remarkable political acumen and leadership skills. Now, the crowns that they wore, the things that they put on. For example, remember in chapter 6, we discussed the Hatshepsut mystery. On the statue, you notice her headdress, her hair wrapped behind her ears, and at the center of her forehead are the remnants of, say, the raised cobra representing the wajet, the symbol of protection. And the rest of the snake curls around her scalp. Then you see the vulture wings outstretched. This is neckbed. Everybody couldn't put that on. Everybody couldn't wear that. So in order for you to wear that, first of all, you have to understand what it meant. Second of all, you had to earn the right to wear it. All right. Everybody could put that on. And of course, her name, when she got coronated, when she got crowned, we use Queen Sebek-Neferu's name, for example. Her Nbiti name, that is called Set Sekem Nepatawi. Nepatawi. Okay, that Nepatawi means she is the lady of the two lands. Nepet, the T, that means that's feminine. So basically, in other words, she's the daughter of the powerful one, the mistress of two lands, or the lady of two lands, meaning the protection of Nekbet and Wajet would have been bestowed upon her at the time of her coronation. So Wajet is also spelled Wajet, translates to the green one, refers to the cobra goddess, the patron deity of Lower Egypt, protector of the kings, often depicted as a cobra twined around a papyrus stem sometimes. And the vulture crown. Nekbet was one of the most important symbols of queenship in ancient Egypt. Nekbet, the vulture goddess of Upper Egypt, was seen as a divine protector of the pharaoh and the nation. The vulture itself was a sacred bird, symbolizing the maternal care and watchful protection, and the queens who wore the vulture crown were believed to embody these qualities. Okay, let's continue. The crown itself consisted of the vulture figure, it with outspread wings, often depicting hovering over the queen's head. The symbols reinforce the idea that the queen is divinely sanctioned to act as guardian of Egypt. Now, question is, have you ever heard have you heard of the tale of the two ladies? Yeah. This is a story, but I don't think we have time today to get into it. But if you want me to talk about the tale of two ladies, hit that like button and comment. I want to hear the story. I want to hear that story. All right. All right. So just let me know. Let me know in the comments if you want to hear the tale of the two ladies. All right. Greetings, Blue. What's going on? All right. So let's get it. Now, remember, this is all recap, y'all. This is all recap. Remember, in the initiation process, some scholars argue that queens underwent purification rites before their formal recognition. These rituals performed in sacred temples and likely included offerings to the Nefertari.The gods, anointment with sacred oils, and donning of specific regalia, such as the vulture crown, which is symbolized protection and divine authority. And by the way, if you are enjoying the content so far, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, so you don't miss anything. Hit that subscribe button because we're about to, like somebody said, get surgical. All right, we're about to get into it. Now, there was a question already. I told you we're going to answer a question, right? There was a question a few weeks ago in the comments by Mike Hunt. Shout out to Mike Hunt. Was the Blue Lotus associated in the initiation? That is the question. Was the Blue Lotus associated in the initiation process? My response to him, the Blue Lotus is symbolic of renewal, and King Tut in the 18th dynasty, he was always seen with the lotus, right? He was always seen with the lotus, all right? But we have to discuss the symbolism of the Blue Lotus further. We're going to get into it. Now, the Blue Lotus held significant symbolic meaning in ancient Kemetic or ancient Egyptian culture and was indeed associated with the initiation process, rebirth, and creation. Some worship spiritual transcendence, fertility. Okay, so the Blue Lotus during the 18th dynasty and the latter, the New Kingdom, and so on, the latter periods of Kemet, yes, the Blue Lotus was associated with the initiation process. But the question is, was it always that? Was it always used? Okay, so the use of the Blue Lotus, Nymphia colorea. I'm sorry, I'm not a botanist, but I tried. So, yeah, in Egyptian initiation rituals span multiple eras, with its most prominent use occurring during the New Kingdom, the late period, and the Ptolemaic period. So the Blue Lotus may have been around the whole time, but it was not used until later on. So from what I've learned, the Blue Lotus wasn't being used during for the initiation during the mid dynastic period or the old dynastic period. Okay. Oh, Yeah, I love good rabbit hole. Let's explore the tale of the two ladies. Well, is there another? We heard one. Is there another? Will we? Do you want us to get into that one? All right, let's go. Now, here it is. My top 5 queens of the Nile Valley. I said Nile Valley on purpose. Okay, because what happens is when we always think about monarchy, when we always think about kings and queens of Egypt, we exclude everybody else. Or whenever we think about royalty, we only deal with, say, Kemet. There's royalty throughout the Nile Valley, and we're about to get into that one. And we got a bonus. All right, but before we get into that, I got a question. French fries or onion rings? Like and comment below. French fries or onion rings. Okay, if you're at a fast food restaurant and they're taking your order, French fries or onion rings? All right, comment below. French fries or onion rings? All right, that's the question. I have others, but let's kick off. All right, let's kick it off. French fries or onion rings? Now, my top 5. All right, here it is. We're going to deal with Hatshepsut. That's 1. Tiye, Queen Tiye. That's 2. Nefertari. And guess what? We got 2 queens from Nubia and a bonus. And, you got to stay until the end. But Tadeli, he said fries. Yep. French fries it is. Yep. So if you team onion ring, you're out of here. Neither is there a substitute. There is no substitute. No, you only have 2. All right. We don't have corn. All right. All right. So we have Hatshepsut, Tiye, Nefertari, 2 queens from Nubia, and a bonus. You got to stay to the end to get it. All right. Now, Queen Hatshepsut. She was born around 1507 before Common Era to Pharaoh Hatshepsut The and Queen Amos. As the daughter of a powerful ruler, she was immersed in the workings of the Egyptian court from a young age. So she was born into this. She was prepared for this. Her father was a king. Her mother was a queen. So she was already thoroughly immersed in this knowledge, in this culture, in this experience. Unlike many royal daughters, Hatshepsut received an exceptional education, learning administration, religious rites, diplomacy, and military strategy. Enough is enough. What's going on? Greetings. Enough is enough. I like that. What's going on? Greet everybody. Hit the like button and greet everyone as you come in. You're welcome. All right. So Queen Hatshepsut, that is who we starting with. Now I'm doing this kind of in order. Kind of from age to age. So Queen Hatshepsut, her lineage granted her significant influence as she was pure royal blood. She was a pure blood. Okay, this was a key factor in Egyptian succession. Okay, as time go on, as we going through the Queens of the South series, we're going to realize there's some people that was readily accepted as Hatshepsut or as Pharaoh versus somebody else or a placeholder. All right. So, but Queen Hatshepsut, was of royal pure blood. So Tutmosis II, whom she later married to consolidate. I still think it's weird. Okay, stepbrother or not. When Tutmosis died, get this, when Tutmosis II died, his heir, Tutmosis III, was still a child. Positioning. So he wasn't old enough yet. This is a totally different scenario in comparison to King Tut, right? When Akhenaten was gone, there was no other substitute. There was no one else. So he had to be blessed in. He had to be coronated. But in this case, there were some options here. Okay, Tutmosis II passed away. Okay, her son is too young. However, we have somebody of a royal lineage, Queen Hatshepsut. Okay, now Hatshepsut was one of the most formidable rulers of ancient Kemet, ascending to the throne in 18th dynasty. Unlike many other queens who who were regents and consorts, she adopted the full authority of a pharaoh, even portraying herself, in a masculine form in official depictions. Her reign was marked by economic prosperity, monumental architecture, and extensive trade expeditions. All right. Her rise to power, from regent to pharaoh, her rise to power, while it was common, uh, her queens, for queens to come at this regents and young heirs, Hatshepsut took the unprecedented step and declared herself as pharaoh. She basically, in other words, who's going to check me? Right? Who opposes me? So around 1478, before Common Era, she assumed full kingship, ruling Egypt independently. There is no co-monarchy. There is no co-regency. In other words, she is him. Right? So to solidify the legitimacy, she emphasized divine support, particularly from Amun, the chief deity in Thebes, or Waset. Okay. We discussed the different priesthoods before, and as you can recall, the priests of Amun, they was a little different. Things got real different dealing with them. All right. So she had to kind of play this political game and appease that group, because if that group wasn't happy, it was going down. All right. So one of the most intriguing aspects of her reign, though, was her decision to be depicted as a male in artwork. She wore the false beard of the pharaoh, the ceremonial kilt, and was referred to with masculine titles. This was not a denial of her femininity. Okay, this was not a denial of her womanhood, but rather a strategic move to fit within Egypt's or Kemet's deeply ingrained traditional kingship. So there was a question. Shout out to Brother Joseph Ferguson. Shout out to him. He asked the question, why did she not show her feminine features? Okay. There's some reason. There's a couple of reasons why as to why she didn't, right? One of it is for legitimacy and authority. So in ancient Egypt, the role of pharaoh was traditionally male, and the power was closely associated with the image of kingship. By adopting male symbols, okay, Hatshepsut reinforced her right to rule and minimize opposition to her reign. Even though she was born queen, even though she was of royal heritage and lineage, she still had to be political, right? Political stability. As the first woman to take full title of pharaoh, which we learned she was not the first, right? She needed to maintain stability in a society where male leadership was the norm. Okay, I got, that's the common statement, but we're gonna keep it moving, because I think that in Africa they accepted queen leaders as leaders within their own right. All right. So religious symbolism, pharaohs were considered divine representatives of the Nefertari, of the ancestor, particularly Heru or Horus, who was depicted as a male. By embodying the traditional image of a king, Hatshepsut aligned herself with divine rulership. Practical governance, Egyptian iconic, I'm getting tongue tied. All right, iconography had a strong precedent of associating power with masculinity. Goodness, I had a long day. By appearing as a male pharaoh, she ensured continuity. She ensured continuity in governance and reduced resistance from conservative factions. All right. She had to appease the elders, right? By adopting the traditional role attributes of pharaohs, this personal strategy by adopting the traditional role attributes of pharaohs, Hatshepsut assured her rule to be taken. She wanted to make sure her role was serious. Her rule was serious. So allowing her to implement ambitions and projects, including trade expeditions and monumental construction. All right. So that's the reason why. Okay. Now, concerning her religious role to Amun. All right. Now, Hatshepsut. Hope you got the pen and paper. Hatshepsut reinforced her rule through religious propaganda, claiming that she was the daughter of Amun himself. The divine legitimacy was highlighted in inscriptions at the Deir el-Bahari temple, where she inscribed how the Neteru, the god Amun, visited her mother in the form of Tutmosis the first, leading her to her divine birth, right? She was a great patron of the Temple of Karnak, commissioning monumental obelisks or tekkanen and expanding the complex. These obelisks inscribed the text praising her divine right to rule, were among the tallest ever erected in Kemet. She also reinforced the Opet festival, a grand religious ceremony that emphasized the divine power of the king. All right. Now, her her architectural and economic achievements. So she did some other things too. All right, her architectural and economic achievements. One of her greatest achievements was her expedition to Punt, okay, a region believed to be in modern day Eritrea or Somalia. So when people nowadays try to separate themselves, there are a group of people in East Africa that would try to separate themselves from everybody else. They say, I'm Eritrean, I'm Ethiopian. No, there was all one culture along the Nile Valley. So she did visit there. And she called, or Somalia, or the land of Punt, P-U-N-T, was called Taneter, or God's land, Taneter. Yeah, we will discuss the kings of the East later. Yeah, shout out to Brother Mo. We're going to discuss the kings of the East later. This expedition, though, brought back gold, incense, ivory, and exotic animals, strengthening Egypt's economy. This event was recorded in detail carvings at Deir Bahari. Hatshepsut's reign was one of the most prosperous periods. She focused on trade, she focused on infrastructure and religious architecture rather than military conquest, because she focused on one side. Tutmosis the he got busy. Okay, Tutmosis the, he wasn't for all that. He was for expansion. Okay, now her architectural contributions were groundbreaking. Okay, mortuary temple Hatshepsut at Deir Bahari is an architectural masterpiece designed with terraces, colonnades, and chapels dedicated to Amun, Heteru, or Hathor, and Anupu or Anubis. All right, so she loved architecture. She loved that work. Right. Speaking of that, the magnificent Jesseru, or Holy of Holies. Right. We are going to get into that. Yeah, the majestic gateway. Yeah, we're about to have that discussion. We're about to break down. We are going to take the time out to break down um, her mortuary temple, the magnificent Jesseru. All right, give us a few more weeks. But now, so the topic though is Hatshepsut's temple, a majestic gateway to the gods and the afterlife. Yeah, a few weeks ago, well, last week, matter of fact, we talked about the chambers under the pyramids, and I just learned that Deir Bahari had chambers and underground places also. And as you see, there's a lot of ground that we can cover. There's a lot of things that we can discuss. On this side, the smaller temple is the temple of Tutmosis III, right next to his stepmother, Hatshepsut. Okay, but we're going to look at Deir Bahari. Okay, because in the 18th dynasty and the New Kingdom, they talked about the Book of Gates. They talked about how each gate had passwords and so on that led to the Duat. Okay, so we're going to get into it. So Queen Hatshepsut, after Tutmosis III assumed full power following her death around 1458 BCE, attempts were made to erase her legacy. Attempts were made to erase her legacy. Statues were defaced, inscriptions were chiseled away, her name was removed. It is believed, some people believe, that her stepson had something to do with that. Tutmosis III or his successors start to restore a more traditional lineage. What do you think? Do you think Hatshepsut stepson had a vendetta? What do y'all think? Like and comment, let me know. All right. So now we got Queen Tiye. All right, Queen Tiye. Yeah, we're gradually going up through these golden ages. Well, we have Hatshepsut, now we have Queen Tiye, right? So Queen Tiye, she was born. But first of all, before we get into her birth, she was the wife of Amenhotep III, the mother of the great revolutionary pharaoh Akhenaten, and was one of the most politically astute and powerful queens of ancient Egypt. So Queen Tiye was important because of her political prowess. She knew what she was doing and she knew what she was talking about. Okay. So now dealing with Tiye, she was born around 1398 before Common Era to a prominent noble family. Unlike many other Egyptian queens, she was not royal blood. She was not, y'all, she was not royalty. She wasn't born into that. All right. She wasn't born into it. Okay. But she married a king anyway, right? So now dealing with Tiye, going ahead a little bit. Her father was Yuya, her mother was Tuya. They were influential, noble people, but she wasn't royalty. Despite her non-royal lineage, Tiye's intelligence and strong personality made her an ideal match to Pharaoh Amenhotep III. Okay, now Tiye played a crucial role in maintaining stability during her husband's reign, which was characterized by wealth, opulence, and extensive construction projects. She was instrumental in religious developments, particularly in the promotion of the sun god Aten. A theological shift would later be expanded by her son. So at first I thought she was against that. Okay. You learn something new every day. I thought she was against it, but based on some research, she was kind of for that. She supported her son. I don't think she really. What do you think? Do you think, y'all can comment below, do you think she was more supportive of her son or the actual idea? What do y'all think? All right. Did she support her son? She gonna stand behind him or whatever? Or she liked the idea? What do y'all think? Okay. Now, like I said before, she wasn't royal lineage. So she didn't come from a royal background. So her marriage was not just a political alliance, but a true partnership. She became, now get this, she became his great royal wife, a title denoting the highest ranking queen. Unlike many queens before her, Tiye was depicted alongside Pharaoh as an equal. You see it right here. They're shoulder to shoulder, right? Unlike many queens before, Tiye was depicted alongside the pharaoh as an equal. And it shows clear indication of her influence. Right? So her rise to power, how did she get to this point? She's not royalty. She became royalty, but she was born into royalty, right? So Tiye's Tiye's intelligence and political acumen quickly became evident. She was deeply involved in the state affairs, she's corresponding with foreign leaders. She is corresponding. She is sending letters and paperwork to foreign rulers, advising the king or their leader and playing a key role in diplomatic relations. Letters from the Armana letters, a collection of diplomatic correspondence, reveals, get this, that the rulers from Babylon, Mitanni, and the Hittite Empire addressed her directly. They didn't address the king. They didn't address a noble or a general. They addressed the queen directly. That is something unprecedented for an Egyptian queen. That is power. Wow. They're writing, they're not even dealing with the king right now. They're addressing the queen. That is absolute power. Man. Her husband, Amenhotep, relied heavily on her advice in foreign policy, religious matters, and administration. She was smart. She was, look, y'all, Queen Tiye, she was the queen mother. That's what I like to call her. The queen mother was not a dummy. She wasn't just sitting back taking selfies and really living the kept life or whatever. She was important. She was intelligent. y'all, we gotta get to that point. We gotta get to that point to where whenever we enter into a place in space, wherever we are, wherever we find ourselves, we gotta be a blessing to somebody. We gotta use our gifts and talents to uplift and make the world around us, make the world around us better. All right. So some historians suggest that Tiye effectively co-ruled Egypt, especially in the latter years of Amanirenas reign when he was in ill health. Now we talked about that. We talked about that in a previous video, Pharaohs in the Shadows. We talked about one of the reasons why some of the kings decided to have a co-ruler or they delegated things was because of their health. And I also know that I also learned that the reason why Nefertiti came into play was I got to do the work on it. I got to look this up. But this is what I heard. I heard this. Check this out. I heard this. That Queen Nefertiti, she was part of an arranged marriage situation to Amenhotep III. However, before the wedding can kick off, the king died. So therefore, she married Akhenaten. All right. But I do think Queen Tiye was a pharaoh in the shadows. This is what I think. I think Queen Tiye was a pharaoh in the shadows. All right. What do you think? But do you think Queen Tiye was a pharaoh in her own right? Even though she wasn't born into this. What do you think? All right. Her religious role and influence, Queen Tiye. Now, she played a significant role in shaping the religious landscape of Kemet. She was a strong supporter of her son. Okay, more specifically, I really think she just supported her boy. I just think so. All right, I think I think that she supported her son more than she supported the idea. But we'll talk about that. She was a strong supporter of the sun deity Aten, the god of the solar disk. This influence likely paved the way for her son Akhenaten to introduce monotheistic reforms later in his reign. So, y'all, family is important. Parents, we are important. We have, believe it or not, we have a lot of sway, especially in the early stages of our children's life. So we got to really be mindful as to what we're doing and how we're doing it, right? So she was closely associated with the goddess Hatshepsut, a deity linked to fertility, the motherhood, and divine queenship, right? Statues and temple inscriptions depict her as a powerful intermediary between the Nefertari and the people, and honor traditionally reserved for pharaohs. It may have been traditionally reserved for pharaohs, but as we know and understand, Queen Tiye, she was different. She was different. Now, she often depicted with attributes of Hatshepsut or Hathor, reinforce her divine status. And get this, we also talked about Hathor in the video events for goddess. When you get done, check that out. Now, her and her boy. Okay, I think she played that role. She appreciated what was going on, and she knew what was happening. Okay, so she knew that the time would come where Akhenaten had to rule. So she made sure things was in place to make sure it happened. Okay, so she had a profound influence on the royal court, ensuring her family retained power. She was the mother of Akhenaten, who later broke the religious traditions to promote Aten worship. She also had a strong presence at the court during his reign. So the thing is, I really thought years ago, I thought Queen Tiye was already gone when Akhenaten ascended to the throne. I thought his mother and father was already gone. It was just him. We're now learning that Queen Tiye was still alive in the early stages of Akhenaten's rule. So she still had political influence in the royal court. So some scholars believe she continued to act as an advisor. Her ability to maintain stability and her diplomatic skills helped Kemet maintain its status as a powerful empire during her lifetime. She was a real queen mother. All right. And that's what I think. She was a real queen mother. She was very influential. She was magnetic. It's very important that she was there, right? Now, her architectural contributions as a key figure in the 18th dynasty, okay, Tiye played a role in commissioning numerous temples, statues, and monuments. One of her most famous contributions is the temple of Seringa in Nubia. This temple was built not in Kemet, but this temple was built in Kush or Nubia, okay, which was dedicated to her as divine queen. So we know that pharaohs built temples and monuments inside of Egypt. And I think the closest one I last time I checked was Abu Simbel, where Ramses put the Abu Simbel right on the border. But now we're learning that the temple of Queen Tiye, it was in Nubia. It was further south. Okay. So she was also depicted in colossal statues alongside Amenhotep the third as usual, as an unusual honor. Okay. So even after her husband's death, Ty remained influential. She continued to act as an advisor to her son even during his radical religious reforms. Some evidence suggests that she even visited Amarna. Now her home was in Thebes. Her house was in Thebes, but she went and visited her son's house in Amarna. Okay, the city Akhenaten built in honor of the Aten. She likely died in 1338 before Common Era. Her burial was discovered in the Valley of the Kings. Okay, she was buried. That's why I think she was a pharaoh. Okay, that's why I think she was a pharaoh. That's why I think she was. Let me see what the comment. Somebody, yeah, she was putting in work behind the scenes. Yeah, I think she was. She was. Queen Tiye was pharaoh. Okay, in every regard. Okay, and then her final rites, she was buried in the Valley of the Kings. That's something. Okay, normally the queens were buried in the Valley of the Queens, which is not far from there. Okay, but she was buried in the Valley of the Kings. So that shows that she had a lot of influence and a lot of power. Okay, that's Queen Tiye, y'all. Yeah, the DNA dynasties and deception, the hunt for the true mother. Since we own the family, yeah, before Mother's Day, we're gonna find out. We're gonna discuss the true mother of King Tut. We're gonna find out who is his mother. Okay, we're gonna talk about that right before Mother's Day. You know what I'm saying? All right, so we're gonna get into that now. Nefertari, but before we move on to Nefertari, do you think that when she passed, she left a major power vacuum? When Queen Tiye passed, knowing what we know, knowing she was very diplomatic, knowing she was very influential, I think her passing sent Kemet and her son spiraling. I think so. I really think so. I think that with all that influence, remember that the leaders were addressing her directly and nobody else. I think it sent Kemet, more specifically her son, spiraling. Now, Nefertari, all right. Queen Nefertari was one of the most. Now we're skipping. Okay, we have Hatshepsut, okay, 18th dynasty, Queen Tiye, 18th dynasty, New Kingdom, Nefertari. Nefertari was one of the most celebrated queens of ancient Egypt, living during the 19th dynasty. Okay, 1290 to 1255. While her exact origins remain uncertain, it is believed that she came from influential noble family. I would like to believe, okay, especially this is during a restart or reset of the New Kingdom. I believe she came from Ethiopia or Nubia. The reason why is because in order for a pharaoh to be pharaoh, his wife had to be from the south, or as we know, from royal, from nobility or royalty. So I believe she came from the south. So now Nefertari became the great royal wife of Pharaoh Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great, one of Kemet's most powerful leaders. He loved that woman. I'm telling you, he loved him some her. Okay. Nefertari was something. All right. Ramses loved that woman there. And so her name means beautiful companion, and she was deeply loved by Ramses II. Their relationship was depicted in numerous inscriptions, poems, and monuments, making her one of the most well documented queens of ancient Egypt, Nefertari. Now, hit the subscribe button because we're gonna and the bell notification so you don't miss anything, because we're gonna break this down. We're gonna break this down really quick since we're dealing with names, dealing with people, right? Nefer means beautiful. Tari means companion. Nefer, beautiful. Tari, companion. Merit, with a T. Merit, with a T. That means she's beloved. Remember, the letter T at the end of that term makes it feminine. Okay, so Nefer, beautiful. Tari, companion. Merit, okay, and Mut, beloved of Mut. Okay, Mary, beloved Mut. Okay, Nefertari, Mary Mut. All right, beloved of Mut. So in this picture, she's her name is surrounded by the protector Wajet. Right, and now, but the question is, who was Mut? Okay, translated is Maut or Muut, mother goddess, a primal deity, one of the originated from the primordial waters of Noon, and we discussed that. Was said to have given birth to the world, okay, like Mother Earth or Mother Nature, okay, yeah. By Queen T being so influential, who could fill her shoes? Nobody living, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think. I don't think anybody could really fill her shoes. I don't think anybody could replace her. So, but the empire had to continue. Okay, that's why it's so important that we have people in place. Okay, to keep things going. So that she was very influential and she was very important. Okay, now, so this is Mut's in Meta Nature, all right? So when you see this, the vulture and that small little cup above that means that she's over a group, all right? And a woman there, which means that it's feminine, all right? Now, some people, according to some, they will confuse her as being the wife of Amun. That is incorrect because her Amun's wife is Amunet, all right? Amunet, and she is independent. So who has her own priesthood. So she was not attached to any Netaru at any point. Most texts refer to her as mother, and she is occasionally depicted with divine child in her lap. She is the mother of Kansu. Okay, Kansu basically represents night. Okay, the nighttime. Speaking of that, speaking of Kansu, all right. Yeah, we're gonna have a special guest coming up next Sunday. The the host of I Ain't Saying, I'm Just Saying. He's gonna come through because we're gonna talk about Afrofuturism. We're gonna talk about Black comics using our imaginations and everything. But The, shout out to the fam. He's coming with the Rock With Me Nation, and he got an issue with MCU. and he gonna tell us why, why T'Challa, we got T'Challa at home, and why we should be begging the MCU or Marvel Comics to bring out T'Challa. They already got a body of work already, right? And so, in matter of fact, he was saying that we won't see the Black Panther for like another until like 2028 or something like that. But we're gonna talk to him coming up this Sunday. So I'm excited about that. So now here's the question. Check this out. How come her cheekbone is lighter? Y'all see this? Right up under the eye right here. It's all light skinned right here. But the rest of her by her ear and neck is darker. Now, these folk been going into the temples of Egypt, going into African places in Egypt. Because remember, Egypt is in Africa. So therefore, the people are African looking. They calling themselves restoring the monuments, restoring the hieroglyphics, but in their restoration process, they're making these folk look lighter. Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, so that we know she's African. So why her cheekbones look like this? Like she accidentally bleached her skin or something like that, right? I don't know. Now, and who was her parents? Because we still don't know that. Who was her parents? Now, get this. She was a diplomat also. Nefertari was more than just a royal consort. She played a critical role in diplomacy, cultural patronage, and religious life. One of her most significant contributions was her involvement in foreign relations. These queens wasn't planned. These queens were actually involved in the political process. They weren't just walking around pontificating and taking selfies and wearing dresses all the time. They got active. They got involved with the affairs of the nation. Okay. She played a key role in the peace treaty between Egypt and the Hittite Empire after years of conflict. This was after the Battle of Kadesh between Ramses II and the Hittite Empire. Okay. Once it was all said and done, she wrote some paperwork, a peace treaty between Egypt and the Hittite Empire after the years of conflict, corresponding with the Hittite queens to maintain diplomatic ties. Okay. She's checking to see if they're good. She's checking to see if they're all right. All right. Let me see. There's somebody in the comment. Let me see. What's the connection between the Ethiopian Orthodox Church and Kemet spirituality? Lots of similarities. I cannot I can't say one way or the other. Okay. But I do know the Ethiopian Church and the Coptic Church are are the two oldest. Not the oldest. They're one of the oldest Christian churches in the world. Okay. Is there a connection, or is there a connection in practice? I don't know. We may have to engage in it. We may have to talk about that, because remember, these people were isolated for a very long time, and they were still in the Nile Valley. They did not move. So therefore, a lot of culture, a lot of customs was translated and transferred over. All right. So matter of fact, there are some dates. This is what I do know. There are some dates in the Egyptian Coptic Church that still, what's going on, Miss Haynes? That still mimic the months of the years in ancient Egypt. All right. Don't forget to hit the like button and greet everybody when you come in. Yeah, that is a good question. All right. So she was a diplomat, right? Nefertari was actively involved. She was actively involved in diplomatic affairs. Okay. Like I said, following the Battle of Kadesh, her correspondence with Hittite royalty suggests she played a vital role in strengthening diplomatic relations, which is rare. Okay. But it's not impossible, because we know Queen Tiye did the same thing. What were those letters called? Those letters, the letter of friendship. The letter of friendship. All right. So now, Nefertari, she also was a patron of the arts and architecture, including the temple projects, religious sites. She appeared prominently in religious ceremonies, was often depicted in equal size to Ramses II in artwork. Nefertari was closely associated with the goddess Hathor, or Heteru, the deity of love, music, and fertility. In some inscriptions, she's depicted as a living embodiment of the goddess, emphasizing her divine role in Egyptian society. Her most famous religious contribution was her tomb in the Valley of the Queens. Now, Queen Tiye, we discussed it. Queen Tiye was buried in the Valley of the Kings. Nefertari in the Valley of the Queens, which is not far from there, right? One of the most beautifully decorated tombs in Egypt. The intricate paintings depict her journey through the afterlife, guided by gods like Osiris, Anubis, and Isis. The tomb has vivid colors and elaborate hieroglyphics highlight her strong religious devotion and high status. Right now, she was also the patron. She was also the patron of the arts and architecture. Okay, funding temple projects and religious sites. She appeared prominently in religious ceremonies, often depicted, like I said, in equal size of Ramses II in artwork. Okay. Nefertari was honored with one of the two temples at Abu Simbel built by her husband, Ramses II. This temple, dedicated to Hathor and Nefertari, was an extraordinary tribute to her, as it was rare for a queen to receive her own monumental structure. The Temple of Nefertari at Abu Simbel has features massive statues of the queen depicted at nearly the same scale as the pharaoh, an unparalleled display of royal equality. The temple inscriptions emphasize her wisdom, beauty, and divine favor. Ramses II's deep affection for Nefertari is evident in the grand monuments dedicated to her, most notably the stunning tomb in the Valley of the Queens and the Temple of Abu Simbel. The temple, built in her honor, signifies her elevated status as very few queens receive in architectural tributes. Nefertari, she passed away around 1255 before Common Era, and her death was deeply mourned. Ramses II continued to honor her memory. Ramses outlived a lot of people, and unfortunately, including his wife, right? So he continued to honor her memory long after her passing, ensuring that her tomb and temple stood as testaments of her legacy. Despite later efforts by new dynasties to overshadow the previous rulers, Nefertari's tomb remains her gravesite, or her tomb remains one of the best preserved monuments in Kemet, drawing admiration for its beauty and cultural significance. Now, so far we discussed Hatshepsut, right? Tiye, Nefertari. Okay. Now we got two queens from Nubia and a bonus, right? So we have Amanirenas of Nubia. Okay, Amanirenas of Nubia. Okay. So she was one of the most formidable rulers of the kingdom of Kush. I told you we was dealing with the Nile Valley. We wasn't going to stay in Egypt long. So the powerful Nubian civilization that thrived in what is now Sudan. Shout out to the fam in Sudan. She ruled from approximately 40 before Common Era to 10 before Common Era BCE, and was part of the Candic or Candace dynasty. What is the Candace dynasty? This is a line of powerful queens who often ruled independently or as co-regents with kings. In this case, though, Amanirenas, she was by herself with this one. So she inherited a kingdom with strong military traditions and deep spiritual connections to the gods. So remember, Tasseti is also known as the land of the bow. Tasseti. So but they didn't have that. They didn't get that name for nothing. So as Candice, she was, or Kandake, okay, she was expected to not just be a ruler, but a warrior, a strategist, and a religious leader who defended her land and its cultural identity. So she wasn't for all that talking. Okay, Amanirenas, she wasn't for that talking. She came in. She was expected to be a warrior, a strategist, and then a religious leader. This girl threw hands. She was serious about that. Okay, because there was a war against Rome. Yeah, remember this is 40 BC. So Rome tried to expand into Nubia. Remember, at this point in time, they're already colonized and occupied Kemet. Now they're trying to push southward into Nubia. The Nubians wasn't having that. They were like, no, we're not doing all that. We ain't got time for all that. What you can do, though, is hit that U-turn, go to the house. The war against Rome. One of the defining moments, Amanirenas' reign, was her conflict with the Roman Empire. In 30 BCE, following the defeat of Cleopatra. That's the reason why she's not on the list. She's not on the list. And after the defeat of Cleopatra and Mark Antony, Egypt fell under Roman control. And Emperor Augustus attempted to expand Roman influence south into Nubia. Refusing to accept Roman rule, Amanirenas launched an audacious military campaign against Rome. Yep. She wasn't playing with him. She said, I heard what you did to Kemet. You're not doing that to us. Okay, so she invaded southern Egypt and captured several cities along the way, including the Aswan and Peli. Okay, the Aswan people are still in the same area, the southern border of Egypt. Her forces destroyed Roman statues and even defaced a statue of Emperor Augustus, symbolizing Nubian resistance against foreign dominance. Y'all, Amanirenas wasn't playing. You see the picture. You see it. She got them all yoked up. She about to give them that permanent relaxation. She was not playing with them. She's going to give them that work. You come around here if you want to. But Nubia, we're not playing that. Okay? Yeah, so her forces destroyed Roman statues and she led a military campaign against Rome. Okay? So she was powerful. She was serious. Okay? So Rome tried to retaliate. She tried to retaliate. All right, sending its legions to push back. They tried to push back the Nubians, despite suffering significant losses. Amanirenas and her army fiercely resisted, engaging in prolonged warfare that lasted several years. Nubia was not playing with the Romans, and plus it's too hot. So Nubia wasn't playing with them. Okay, now dealing with religion. Her religious significance and leadership. She was not just a warrior, she was also deeply connected to Nubian religious traditions, right? The Nubians worship gods like Amun and Apidmak, the lion-headed god of war. That's probably another reason them Romans wasn't crossing that border. One of their deities is not Sekhmet, but is Apedimak, the god of war, and then Isis. Okay, all of whom were central to their spiritual life. As Kandik, Amanirenas was queen as a semi-divine ruler with direct ties to the Nefertari. She often appeared in temple reliefs and inscriptions, performing ritual. So there's some temple reliefs showing her throwing hands. There's others images of her pouring libation. Right? She had to be both. All right, perform rituals ensuring the favor of the Nefertari and her ancestors in battles against Rome. Her military campaigns were not just political, but also spiritual. She framed the war as a struggle to protect the sacred lands of Nubia from Roman desecration. That was her. She was there to protect the sacred lands of Nubia, because you're not going to come through here doing to us what you did to Egypt. You can go and leave now, right? So she defied Rome, okay? And so she was also diplomatic about her process, okay? Despite Rome's superior military strength, Amanirenas resisted and forced the emperor of Rome to negotiate. Get it? Think about it. She made. They're not going to talk about it. They're not going to talk about it that much. They're not going to talk about it that much. But yeah. She was right. She had to protect the lands of Nubia. And it got to the point to where Rome had to withdraw and sign a peace treaty. So they left the Nubian territory and accept the region from paying tribute. You weren't gonna make Nubia pay, no way. They wasn't paying. They wasn't paying no money. What you can do is kick rocks and go on where you come from. Go back to the Mediterranean. Go back to the Nile Delta. But you're not going to come through here trying to force us to pay taxes to you. No, it's not happening. All right. So this was a huge diplomatic victory, as very few nations successfully resisted Roman expansion. This peace treaty ensured that Nubia remained independent for centuries. Nubia, Ethiopia, there's reasons why Nubia and Ethiopia remained independent from European control for many centuries. And this is one reason, one of the reasons. Okay. Amanirenas, she She wasn't playing with them. She kicked everybody out. So this peace treaty ensured that Nubia remained independent, preserving its culture, preserving its language, preserving its religious practices. Amanirenas' victory against Rome cemented her legacy as one of the greatest warrior queens in Nubia. And she is believed to have ruled for 3 decades. Wow. She ruled for 30 years. And she likely passed away in 10 before Common Era, though her exact burial site remains unknown. Okay. She was honored in Nubian temples and inscriptions as legendary ruler. Even today, she is celebrated as symbol of African resistance and female empowerment, proving that Nubia was a force to be reckoned with in the ancient world. So we have Hatshepsut, we have Tiye, we have Nefertari, we have Amanirenas of Nubia, right? Now, we have Amanishakheto, okay? Shakheto, all right? Amanishakheto, the warrior queen of and builder of Kush. Now, now get this though, get this. Did you know that there were multiple groups and kingdoms south of Egypt? What happens is, like and comment, by the way, if you want to discuss this, the other kingdoms of Sudan, because what happens is we try to put everybody in one category, all of Nubia in one banner. There was Tasseti, there was Moroi, there was so many other kingdoms. That's the reason why they were saying, hey, Ramses II, you may be the king of the north and south up there, but you're not that down here. So like and comment if you want us to discuss the other kingdoms, multiple kingdoms of Sudan. Okay, I've already been asked to discuss the Kemetic connection to Congo. There is a Kemetic connection to the Bakongo. Remember, Congo, Uganda, Kenya, all those places were the point of origin. That was the point of origin for Kemet. I'm not saying 5 years, okay, they moved from Congo up. No. That point of origin, Ethiopia, Kenya, and all those places, that was the birthplace for Kemet later on. Okay, let me know if you want to discuss the other kingdoms of Sudan. Let me see. Somebody, yep, Library Without Borders. Yep, yeah, we're gonna get to it. Greet everybody. Hit the like button as you come in. Greeting. All right. Shout out to Library Without Borders. Yeah, we're gonna get into this. We're gonna lean into that one. All right. Yeah, let's go. Now, as the queen, Amanishakheto ruled the kingdom of Kush during the 1st century before Common Era, following the tradition of the Kandik or Candaces or Kandike, the powerful warrior queens of Nubia. They weren't just sitting back taking selfies. They weren't just posting on social media all the time. They were warriors, and they had to be, as we know, they had to be. Okay, all right. While historical records about her earlier life is scarce, it's evident that she came from royal lineage and valued military strength, which was a necessity. Okay, religious leadership and architectural advancements. Amanishakheto likely ascended the throne after the reign of Amanirenas, continuing the legacy of resisting foreign influence, continuing the legacy of resisting foreign influence, maintaining Nubian sovereignty, and overseeing vast construction projects that reinforced Kushite culture. Yeah, let's get it. Yeah, we're gonna have to engage in this conversation. We have to go and get to that, right? So let's go. Now, according to some sources, okay, in Morotic hieroglyphs, her name is written Amani Kasheto or Mini Shakti or Amnishakti. Okay, Amani or Mini Shakti or Amnishakti. In Moroid cursive, she's referred to Amanishakheto Kor Kuntik. Okay. Remember, these people of the Nile Valley did not have vowels. They didn't have A, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. Those words were broken up. Okay. She was Kore, Kore, and Kandeke. She was Kore and Kandeke, ruler and queen. Kore, which is ruler, Kandeke and queen. All right. And what's this on her face? I'm just wondering about that. It's not wrinkles, I don't think. Okay, if you're looking at the picture, I don't think that's wrinkles on her face. All right, I don't think so. Now, I noticed her name, by the way. I noticed her name, as well as the previous queens, began with the word Amani. What do you think? What do you think, fam? Is that a royal title, Amani? Or Is that a royal title? Is that a feminine version of the word Amun? What do you think? Like and comment below. What do you think? Is that Amani, is that a royal title? Because Amani, her previous ruler, the previous queen had that also. Amanirenas, now Amanishakheto. Was that a royal title? Okay, what do you think? Like the predecessor, Amanishakheto, as a warrior queen, she defended Nubia's borders against external threat. Now, during her reign, don't forget to hit the like button, by the way. During her reign, she continued to strengthen the Kushite military forces, ensuring that her kingdom remained independent from Rome's growing influence. They wasn't playing with these people from the outside. Now, and I think Dr. Ben mentioned this, and Dr. John Henry Clark mentioned this. When Greece and Rome pushed into Egypt, the original inhabitants of the original people of Kemet went south into Kush and further into Ethiopia. Why? Because they was the same culture. They was cousins. But them foreigners, you can stay where you at. So some historical sources suggest that Amanishakheto engaged in battles against neighboring tribes and potential invaders, maintaining the stability of Nubia's southern and northern frontiers. And she likely utilized war elephants. I want to see this. War elephants for real. I want to see that. Archers and cavalry. She was a military strategist. She was a warrior queen, which were essential components of the Kushite military, especially the archers. Okay, they was called the eye smiters. They could see you before you see them. Okay, but I want to see that. War elephants, man. But yeah, we're going to discuss that though. We're going to get into the Nile River War this summer. We're going to talk about that. Shout out to Brother Mo and the fam. We're about to lock in and engage in this conflict. Okay, I'm learning as you guys learn. I'm excited about this, y'all. Yeah. So her religious and divine authority. Of course, it has some religious undertone, right? So she played a significant role as a religious leader, emphasizing her divine authority as ruler. The Kushites worshipped several major gods of Nibiru, including Amun, Apet-Medak, and Isis. See, Isis and Amun was not just an Egyptian thing. It was an African thing, okay? Because remember, for those who've been following for a long time, Egypt or Kemet was the daughter of Nubia and the granddaughter of Ethiopia. So therefore, a lot of their customs, the African customs, were intertwined and connected. Okay, the languages over time may have changed, but a lot of the customs, the underlying customs, were the same. Okay, so as queen, she commissioned religious temples and sculptures that depicted her as a divine ruler, chosen by the gods. She frequently appeared in temple reliefs, offering sacrifices, making divine decrees, pouring libations to the ancestors, which is an African custom, and leading religious ceremonies. One of them is the Lion Temple. Okay, and get this, one of her greatest contributions to Nubian culture was her ambitious building projects, including this temple, pyramids, temples, and palaces that showcase the distinct Kushite architectural style. Speaking of that, should we go further south and discuss the Lion Temple of Naka? Yeah, we already going to deal with Queen Hatshepsut's temple. Should we go south? Y'all hit the like button. Should we go south and deal with and discuss the temple at the Lion Temple at Naka? All right. But speaking of that, though, the Black Pyramid. This is Sebek-Neferu's father's pyramid. We are going to discuss that. Okay, we're going to discuss that because last week we mentioned chambers and things like that under the pyramids. But what we do know for sure, there is a labyrinth. There is a series of chambers close to or by the Black Pyramid. We are going to break that down. We are going to get into that conversation. All right. So stay tuned for that. So one of the greatest contributions was the building projects, and her pyramid tomb located in Meroe is one of the most famous Nubian pyramids, reflecting the unique the steep-sided pyramid. They kind of have a higher angle, different angle, built by the Kushites, differing from the older and larger pyramids of Egypt. But I'm gonna tell you this though, there are more pyramids in Sudan than there are in Egypt. Did you guys know that? There are more pyramids in Nubia than there are in Egypt. Let me see. What's going on? Shout out to Brother Mo. Greetings, everyone. Just got in from my son's district track meet. Did he win though? Or did he break a record? Just saying, because man, look, shout out to Prince Cam. He is in Langston. He's breaking records too. Yeah. Yes, in Sudan. Yeah, there are more pyramids in Sudan than there are in Egypt. Because remember, they had to get it somewhere. They had to get, even though the Great Pyramids of Giza were, of course, they were older in establishment, but there are some stone structures and a lot of pyramids in Sudan and Nabta Playa. Nabta Playa was also a stone monument lined up with stars too. All right, they're going to area. Yeah, that's what's up. All right. Yeah. So why are we're only finding this out now? The thing is, I dealing with Meroe. I didn't know that until I went to college. Little old Paul Quinn College in Dallas. Shout out to Paul Quinn. Gave me that good sound history education. Miss Matthews, she was a one of our esteemed and prestigious history professors. She told us about Meroe. She told us about Kush. We knew about Egypt, but we didn't know about Meroe. So that's the reason why I'm making those connections like that. Yeah, it's but the thing is, in some place it is common knowledge to some, but not really to us. All right. All right. So her final resting place. She's buried in a pyramid tomb. Okay. And she left behind an extensive collection of royal jewelry and treasures, demonstrating the wealth and craftsmanship of the Kushite civilization. Many of these treasures made of gold because Nub, the word Nub means gold. N-U-B means gold. Okay, so Nubia. All right, many of these treasures made of gold and adorned with intricate carvings of the gods and pharaohs they were discovered. They were discovered in the 19th century by European explorers. They didn't discover that; they stole that. Because all of a sudden, once they got all that, because look, if you guys are looking, this monument here is her resting place, but as you can see, it is basically destroyed. Yeah, it is basically destroyed, and so even though she did great and wonderful things, she had great works and so on, she, you know, her tomb was destroyed. Okay. And so she likely ruled for several decades before passing away. And the royal cemetery of the Kushite king, she was buried there despite later invasions by the Aksumite Empire and internal conflicts. Her legacy as a warrior, builder and religious leader, remains strong. Okay. And today she's recognized as one of the most influential queens of ancient Africa, embodying the resilience and power and cultural richness of the Kushite civilization. But check this out. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. That's not wrinkles. Look at this Nubian. These are Nubian facial scars. That is scarification. That is because normally we would see that in West Africa. Yeah, we're about to get into that too. But the thing is, they could not deny her skin tone. Nubia's Nubia. She was black. So, yeah. Yes. Tribal markings. Yeah. And we've seen that before. Okay. The sister on the left, according to the photo, she's Egyptian. And this was about 100 years ago. Sister on the right, you see that? Skins, there's tribal markers right there. Okay. Tribal markers right there. All right. But let's argue. Let's get it. Now, y'all can pause if you want to and look at it. Look at this. This is the Sphinx, or the Heru Akhet, and our sister from Sudan. Some people will say that's due to weathering. I don't know about that. I think because we discussed that the Sphinx, or the Heru Akhet, is 10,500 years old. So was those lines representation of Nubian scarification? What do you think? All right. What do you think? Because, and also, let's see. I said it was something going on with Sobek Neferu and the Sphinx. Yeah. We're gonna make that connection too. We're not done with that. Yeah, I said it was something going on with Sobek Neferu and the Sphinx. Yes, because she had to wear, she wore, or one of the statues, she was represented as the Sphinx also. Okay. Yeah, but we're not done with the connection too. All right. But let me go further a little bit. Let me push the button. Let me push this button. I think that's the face of a woman. I think the Heru Akhet is not a face of a man, it's the face of a woman. So, was there a connection between the Pharaoh, whoever that was, the Sphinx, and Sekhmet? What do y'all think? Yeah, that we can go. All right. All right. Now, so far we talked about Hatshepsut.The, Nefertari, Amanirenas, Amanishakheto, and we got a bonus. Yeah, this is promised. We got a bonus. We have a bonus. Queen Makeda of Sheba, an honorable mention. We got to go there. We had to. Yeah, to a degree. You didn't know about that anymore. Yeah, to a degree. Yeah. And so Queen Makeda of Sheba said, so if you're going to make a statue of someone, make it accurate. Why not add facial scarring? Yeah, why not? If we're gonna make it into a person, might as well put everything on there. But then, if it was a woman, if the Sphinx was representation of a woman, who was this woman? I got so many questions. I don't know everything, but I love to learn, y'all. All right, so we got a bonus. Queen Makeda of Sheba. Okay. Now, dealing with this, Queen Makeda was commonly known as the Queen of Sheba. She's one of the most revered figures in Ethiopian, Arabian, and biblical history. While the exact dates of her reign remain uncertain, she's believed to have ruled around the 10th century BCE. So this is technically after, okay, Amanishakheto. Okay, and so this is after that, and so she reigned over a large area. Okay, Makeda of Sheba. She reigned over a large area. She reigned not only over Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Yemen, because truth be told, Yemen is the eastern part of Ethiopia. All right. So her origins are described in multiple historical and religious texts, including the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, okay, where she is said to have visited King Solomon, the Quran, which refers to her as Balikis, a wise, wonderful ruler, and the Kebra Nagast, an Ethiopian text that details her relationship with Solomon and the birth of Ethiopia's royal lineage. Now, scholars do debate whether Makeda was a historical figure or a legend. Her impact on Ethiopian identity, religion, and monarchy is undeniable. Now, she did go to, according to some sources, she went to Jerusalem. One of the most famous stories about Queen Makeda is her visit to King Solomon. Okay, King Solomon of Israel, as told in 1 Kings chapter 10, 2 Chronicles chapter 9. According to some of those accounts, she traveled to Jerusalem to test Solomon's wisdom. She wanted to know. Okay, after hearing of his renowned intelligence, she wanted to find out, right? The journey from Sheba, which is likely, this is Ethiopia, to Jerusalem was long and treacherous, requiring Makeda to travel across vast deserts and mountains. She brought with her a caravan of precious gifts, including gold, spices, and rare gems. Upon meeting Solomon, Makeda engaged in philosophical and theological discussion, testing him with riddles and questions. The Hebrew Bible states that Solomon answered all her inquiries, impressing her with his knowledge and wisdom. So, yeah, she legend really, because she couldn't be a part of their legacy. Yeah, yeah. They like to make our people myths and legends. They like to make our monarchs. We don't know for sure if the pyramids were built by Africans. We don't know for sure if Queen Makeda was a real person. Come on, y'all. And this gave birth to the Solomon dynasty. Makeda is credited by establishing Ethiopian religious traditions, which later evolved into the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. As I mentioned earlier, one of the oldest Christian communities in the world. According to Ethiopian legend, Queen Makeda and Solomon had a son named Menelik. Menelik the First. The Kebra Nagas recounts that Menelik was raised in Ethiopia, but later traveled over to Jerusalem, where he was recognized as Solomon's son. Now, here we go. When Menelik returned to Ethiopia, he allegedly took with him the Ark of the Covenant. Yep, that's what they say. They say Menelik left Jerusalem and took the Ark of the Covenant with him. Okay, the sacred chest containing the Ten Commandments. This event was foundational to Ethiopian history. It is established in the Solomonic dynasty, which ruled Ethiopia for centuries, right up until Haile Selassie I in the 20th century. Yeah, I didn't say. Most said, "Wow, now I didn't know that about the Ethiopian church." Yeah. And where is the ark? Where the ark is kept today? Yeah, it's according to the Ethiopian church. It is still in Ethiopia. It is still housed in Addis Ababa. Where exactly? They say it's at one of the older churches there, but some people they still saying that they're not sure, they're not certain, that kind of thing. It's a legend, alleged and stuff like that. But the belief that the Ark of the Covenant remains in Ethiopia, housed in, here it comes, it is this is one of the locations, housed in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Aksum. Okay, the Church of Our Lady Mary. Okay, that's in Ethiopia. Addis Ababa is a central element of Ethiopian religious tradition. There we go. Isu saying Aksum, Aksum, Tigray, or Ethiopia. Yeah. And so she had a lot of economic and political influence. Okay. So she dealt with trade, wealth, and diplomacy. The region controlled vital trade routes, particularly those linked to Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia. So Ethiopia was a major port towards the Indian Ocean, or the Ethiopian Ocean, by the way. All right. So Makita's reign solidified Sheba, or Ethiopia's status as a global trading hub. Queen Makita's legacy, her legacy is deeply woven into Ethiopian identity as well as the wider African Middle Eastern historical narrative. She is revered, respected as a mother of Ethiopian monarchy. She's a symbol of wisdom, beauty, and strength, admired for her intellect and leadership. She was a key figure in religious tradition, particularly in the Ethiopian Christianity and Rastafarian beliefs, which regard her lineage as divinely ordained. Her story continues to inspire literature, art, and religious thought through from medieval European manuscripts to modern African folklore. Queen Makita of Sheba, or Ethiopia, is one of the most legendary queens in history, blending myth, religion, and historical influence. Whether seen as real or historical figure or symbolic, her impact is undeniable. Right? So, and we have to get to this. Now, when you look up, because we already, yeah, when you look up Queen Makita of Sheba, this lady on this side shows up. Like, bro, we know good and well. We know good. We know good and well that Ethiopian wasn't that light skinned. I'm saying they tried it. They tried it. They really did. They tried it. When you look up the Queen of Sheba, yeah, this person shows up. Okay, yeah. They keep doing it. They keep doing this stuff. Like, bro, what you doing? Okay, now this is the reason somebody asked me why Cleopatra ain't hurt. She's not. Okay, she's an opportunist, and another reason is that she was not recognized in the Abydos list, or the king's list. Now, the Greco-Romans that may have added her to a list, but she was not recognized as the Insubiti or queen or Nefertari of Egypt. She wasn't. Okay, just like when say for example George Washington, somebody inhabited parts of the in East Coast and along the United States, you may say you're president, but the Native Americans may say otherwise. Yeah. We black. We sure right. And this chick right here, she ain't. So the lies they fed us so long. Yeah. But that's the reason why we're here. That's the reason why we teach. And that's the reason why we share the information. I share what I know, and hopefully somebody get a hold of it, right? But yeah. Down there, southern part of Nubia in Ethiopia, nah. You didn't look like that. Ain't no way, boy. Ain't no way. So, but I got an idea. Should we talk about the top 5 priestesses of Egypt? Let me know. Let me know if we get into that, because there's so many things we gotta deal with, right? And so before I check roll, because I am going to check roll, you know what I'm saying? I am going to do that. Remember the queens of the Nile Valley: Hatshepsut, Queen Tiye, Nefertari, Amanirenas, Amanishakheto, and Queen Makita. They exemplify power, intelligence, resilience, whether through governance, diplomacy, cultural patronage, religious influence, or military prowess. These women shaped the history of ancient Egypt, Nubia, and Ethiopia, leaving legacies that continue to inspire us today. I got a question though. Before I check roll, give me your top. We did 5 and a bonus, but what is your favorite, your one queen of the Nile Valley? Okay. I know some people may have a different view. If you had one, what would be that one? All right. What would be that one? But yeah, we're gonna get into this roll call. Now, if you're still here, if you stay to the very end, go ahead and comment present. Yeah, if you're still here, shout out to the fam. Much love to you guys. Comment, type in present. All right. Yeah. And get this. This is the book we're into. The first female pharaoh, Sebek Neferu. The goddess of the 7 stars. All right, yep, we got one. All right, so yeah, you get your credit for the day. Yeah, you get credit for the day. Okay. All right, Mo. Yeah. Shout out to the fam. Yeah, you get credit. Very good. Very good. You will not be marked absent today. Yeah. So yeah, we're dealing with the first female pharaoh, Nefertari. Okay, Blue. Very good. Very good. Very good. The first female pharaoh, Nefertari, the goddess of 7 stars. This is our book. The link is in the description, as well as the other books. Okay, there's some other books and other things. And by the way, yeah, speaking of that, I do have it on. I do have a shirt, Queens of the South shirt. The link is also in the description. We do have merch, and I decided to put it on today. See what I'm saying? So yeah. Okay. So you said Makita? Yeah, okay. But keep in mind, it doesn't have to be the ones that I pick, because everybody's different, right? So yeah. Yeah. So the link is in the description. So the book suggestions, and the Queens of the South shirt. Yeah. The link is in the description. Check it out. And so if you liked the comment, if you like the content, share with somebody that may enjoy it, or you can share it on Facebook. Okay. Share with somebody or on Facebook. All right. So we just talked about the Queens of the Nile, legendary queens, legendary women who ruled ancient Egypt and Nubia. Okay. All right. Before we go, do you guys have any questions? Do you guys have any questions or concerns before we call it? I think I hijacked your time long enough. Okay. If there are none, if there are no questions, I really appreciate you guys for coming. And yeah, we are gonna we got a few more weeks to deal with the first female pharaoh. As you can see, I'm reading this along. I'm reading. There's some surprising stuff in here. Okay, like for example, there's a sibling rivalry. There's things like uh, by the way, Amenemhat, her the guy that took the throne. I think he was not full-blooded. I think it was a stepson, that kind of thing. And we got to find out who Neferu's mama is. All right. So, but listen to King Cam with Ujumbe podcast and Ujumbe means message. And today's message is the top 5 plus a bonus, Queens of the Nile Valley. And I will talk to you later. Have a good one, y'all.